Well, generally, I do like to Jones act it up quite a bit here. We'll just come through or just watch some of the immediate recent. Slip it in, think about it, come at it for a minute. Sometimes I'll kick out halfway, come back into them, do whatever the cargo container drill is for anybody data mining right here. And I have a very loose Isador set based to height on the Muni Minis, PMAX, and some of the other stuff that might have come up contextually in 3.4 minutes for a signal in ones and zeros that you might have missed. So, something. Stuff to think about, obviously. Buy a coffee cup. I love his coffee cup too. It looks like you're whipping out your dick every time you take a sip. Trying to refine some of those things, get them in here in a new Xenos paradox about the Raven paradox. Again, I haven't watched this yet, so I really don't know. I'm just thinking Emerson effect, and I want to make sure I get that version of the black body problem because it's one of the sets theories under the first orders that apparently is really critical to what you would expect some line to look like about what you could arguably say for war, standard 50 base points that core out 100 different types of people. Their administrator 050, excuse me. Most of the time it should be a cop, god damn it. Right there, there's the Black Knight, the White Knight. What are they supposed to be posted outside here? Eddie fucking Brock, he's obviously working these saws because he is totally schizo out on the first order of a Thaumiel board on some Cutco, ripping out the steps and redoing her. Command directive, your hands, my hands don't work, and their brains don't work, so we have to be able to figure out these Feynman diagrams by picking the lock, some Bible number inside here, key sectors, key models, to be able to get the right Emerson effect I'm looking for as far as the black body probability on the distribution. Somewhere's in here, I do believe I got one floating around. That's what 6 months on a timeline will do. The limb boots. Anyways, I should have it up in here somewhere. It's about my black body line and books. Two. It was me looking at Dal from Dalport being Gate Guardian. When I'm thinking about this line, and again, regular stock model, she's starting to Kepler out here about what that 3 mean really is. When you ever try to set up your Weebles account, start putting lines on a Fibonacci, or Gaussian, Fourier kind of line in terms of what it is, well, that's what you're looking for. There may not be necessarily a north, south, east, or west interpretation in terms of a scale issue, XY, or why the math, and you're trying to explain that as up to the kid about why the fuck that's useful, would certainly be cool with an identity element inside of it that says this is a form, at least for the moment, against any kind of E parentheses KT minus omega T. This becomes omega T. Little case omega T, because probably more to it, but one of these Keter NTFs that determine some wave function under training correlate a result. Hopefully a cooling aspect in this case, not to say that the stoichiometric ratio of a propane tank there in that stone mill while thermaling that Cutco out of the system. Yeah, you know. This is the one that'll usually get them. And F6, F11, F12, F9 for all the cuts individually, and it'll just cut through because you're programming it here. Then the saw will move at time, which is this movement jouled 4, right? It's in an SU1, SU2 kind of issue about bloop, and that is 1. And as long as you use that system in each of those steps as it's continuing, that butts up the train here about that time dilation or Brownian motion only in like the first order in the train. It's starting to get up, you realize you're still moving, and then it gets to speed, and then it becomes G, because that's what a G or an M would do in that position, having some motion between the two. It's not necessarily a fixed rigid object, but yeah, it's not a ragdoll physics issue. Sure. You would be probably the Egyptian mummy person doing the crocodiles, right? Whatever. Chisel that shit on the bull coffin. And, that was the next cowboy tried at 115 IQ, standing out here banging his chest like King Kong about some weak force team. Everything gym class. Some exoponent with a logarithm gets me this version of it, but when you realistically do the math, that's just some blip. And it told me that early in there's a lot of intensity to it. Then you take a break, you eat some lunch, and I might even get a smaller little out of it. But by the end of the day, on individual hour units, it's not necessarily perfect. This starts to go out. Issues come into what is a perfect system. And I needed a lot of time on the 3-foot law of burning bluestone, stoichiometric CT paradox about the dry wet line of a stack of stone, because it's useful and interesting, right? You got to be able to say, I want in that board factory 42-ness, whether this is a craft factory, whether this is a police station training kids 42 feet running the M2, whether this is a military base about hooking it into the wall, crashing it, and picking it up. Well, obviously, there's some physical forces involved, FM4, but not necessarily the standard of time dilation, probability, blockchain, now it's going to QED, the PSTD. Let me go find the 3 mean. So you see it. This is your azimuth, right? In some grow box, I'm giving you a timeline on the meta issue today with Google and how they might have some marketing issues with Temu and me being fucking pissed about the guide stones getting broken. Goddamn terrorists. It's not that you want 500 million. Blockchain, population, Earth. I think we just passed it a little while ago. Blue passed it. That black body problem is a version of it. It's a real big version of it against what actually moves things, Apophis. Those are Brownie mechanic moles and things along those lines where you don't have to worry about world population doing this, maintaining 350 million, having somewhere's in here, if we go to the town census in Hancock, I'll tell you there's a tower, a pyramid of life over there that has 0 fucking 10-year-old little girls. And that's going to be a problem for me in Reed Elementary School. Nor the 10-year-old growing up inside of there about having a lot more boys in that section bricked out. Or a 36-year-old me right on that 36-year-old line and having some other math. You can't just directly Gomer Pyle his gene seed contract with the VA. This one? I don't remember. Probability. I'm a little early on it. I didn't really get all the information out there at the only place where I ever see bunny rabbits. To be honest with you, that's the bunny I'm hunting. I had to go find me a rabbit. You think I'm gonna find one out there when I'm jumping around in that thing? No. That's a tiger in a cage right there. There ain't gonna be no rabbits around that. See where we're at. I'm sure they're out there. Well, I know for a fact they are. But let's say out here on my Boone and Crockett scope, and I want to Gaussian optics the Fourier windage given the protracted warfare of what my 5-mile run is. For any guy I want to put in here for an Airbnb for training under the system, well, dealing with the fly fishing almanac bloom that is passive, useful, and interesting, not quite the Necronomicon level of a 90-day issue of how to break that down. I don't give a fuck if I know a single stonemason in the area. You go fucking talk to Pete, Paul, the merch boys over here, and you start. You're going to start that same CT paradox dry wet line to figure out what the stoichiometric ratio of that tank is, or the large tank outside when they're delivering oxygen, and what you can and cannot do as far as those red zones or just black and white checkered zones or whatever else you do for it under topologies that determine that's going to slow you down a little bit. Not Schrodinger's cat, Skull Mountain right there. You try to draw a straight line through that with a crew, it's going to fucking burn every single one of them out. I'm telling you. So that's your 5 miles. Should take 40 minutes, right? You younger kids, I'm a 36-year-old. I like to keep a 5:45 on the line for what does here, and I still say 40K is what should. And again, you're generally arguing in those population black body problems in town about what you might know inside of the system, of mental health cases, GPD, single family incomes, whatever that is. And again, back to 10-year-old little girls in the school, somewhere's in here. right there in a nice little pocket, a mile away from everything on scale, right? This is about a mile and a half. Again, 2.5 miles this way out to about here, 2.5. Fire station, log factory, fly fishing post. Again, as a liver here, I might take one a year, but you just come to visit, right? Well, then you don't necessarily need to cut that shit up. You get some haddock over there at the grocery store and be a good little fucking monkey for the experiment, would you please?